Experts are predicting even more construction collapses. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's, have a look at this one article here from the ABC. Construction company collapses tipped to continue due to rising material costs and interest rate hikes, inflation in general as well. Now, we've been discussing the construction apocalypse here on the channel for some time. And, we just jump over here. We can see that builders going bust, that playlist is longer than that now. It's almost a weekly event at the moment, with lots of builders getting into trouble. Now, the reason for this was the government came to the rescue. This is the argument I'm putting forward, or part of the reason was. They allowed, during the lockdown mania, let's say, they allowed companies to trade while insolvent. Now, as a company, every year you have to send the one useful thing you're meant to do with ASIC is to send some paperwork to them to tell them that you're not insolvent. You can pay your bills when they fall due. You know, the whole, if you're working in the construction game, the whole paid when paid, that's actually illegal. You can't have that in a contract. So if anyone tries to do that one with you, it's bullshit. But, they changed the rules. They threw them all out the window. This is why the whole point of trying to make economic predictions is, it's fraught with peril, because the government can always just change the rules. And here they changed the rules. You can see companies entering external administration. It went down. It went down significantly. And, this scared me more than anything, because I know the damage that can cause. You get one job that makes a loss, and it just goes on and on and on. And, you think, the next job, she'll be right. The next job. It'll be okay. And, they juice the whole market. They see the building approvals there in the bottom right of that slide, that light blue line there. That's detached residential houses skyrocketing because of home builder. Okay, they stimulated the economy. They wanted to keep it all going. And to hell with the consequences, but it worked, okay? It worked. It stimulated the economy. It stimulated the housing sector. I would argue it overheated that sector, and we're now seeing the ramifications of that. Nothing is without consequences, everyone. But let's get back to this construction apocalypse slides I've been going through. How's the construction sector actually doing? So before we have a look at this article here, over there, I've got 4 screens in front of me, that's why I'm jumping around. Before we have a look at this, I thought I'd look at the number of businesses in the construction sector according to the ABS over the last few years. What do you reckon? How do you think they're going? I'm going to have a shot of coffee and you let us know in the comments, everyone. So, we can see here, these are the numbers. This is from 8165 from the ABS, the latest data that I downloaded today. The Australian businesses, including entries and exits from June 2018 to June 2022. Released on the 25th of August 2022, the latest data. We can see in the trend line there, but see in the 18 to 19 financial year, there were 383,646 businesses in the construction category, I'd guess, at the start of the financial year. And by the end of the financial year, there were 392,637. So an overall increase of 8,991. It went up in that year, that financial year, which is fantastic. Some businesses disappeared, some businesses reappeared. This is why when there's all this fear about a recession, the economy shrinking, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that, failing businesses shut down, and then opportunities arise for other people to take that place, to sweep into that market sector. That's the type of thing that happens. 2019 to 2020, that financial year, we went from 392,637 up to 395,084 businesses. Now the growth in businesses over that financial year is probably quite low compared to previous ones. You can see, and the rest in the trend here, it was only just under 2,500 businesses. But that's still an increase. Then we went from 2020 to 2021, a 16,717 increase, double the 18 to 19 increase. over 411,000 businesses in this category. And then you go to 21, 22, 33,452 businesses increased in this category. That's all the last 3 financial years combined and more. An increase in businesses in the construction category here, guys. So this construction apocalypse isn't manifesting itself in this data. We're not seeing it here in this data. So we need to go to a more granular level. But some other things to look at. Insolvencies and external administrations, they're going up. They're certainly ticking back up to normal levels. They went below normal, as we saw on, let me show you, where is it? Where's the slide? Oh, well, hang on, I'll get it later. But personal insolvencies are actually going down. This is from the Australian Financial Securities Authority, the AFSA. This is the data that just came out recently. And you can see new personal insolvencies are down compared to December 2021. Remember when we were looking at this with regards to the bankruptcy coastline all along the Sunshine Coast, these businesses in the tourist sector were just getting hammered, just getting destroyed. Business-related bankruptcies, look at that, December 23, the bottom slide there. That's still 36.8% of bankruptcies involve a business, but look at how it's been trending down since 2010. So, there you go. I mean, Canberra, Victoria, and Northern Territory are all up, but still the numbers are pretty low. I mean, Northern Territory is 25. 25, guys. Not 25,000, not 2,500, 25. So we have to keep that in mind. While we're seeing a lot of this, a lot of these businesses going under, and most of them seem to be residential, detached dwelling, either spec home or, bespoke, how would you call it? Bespoke spec quality houses, normal houses, nothing too extravagant, although you are getting some more luxurious high-end architecture quality builders going under. And I don't mean that as a derogatory comment. Most homes, you don't need all the wank, guys. You just need a simple home. But we're seeing a lot of them going under here, and even some of the bigger ones too, but it's not manifesting yet in this data. So here's a question to you. Are these builders going under making way for new ones to rise up? Something to consider. So we'll have to keep an eye on the data here, guys, because I know it's fun to dwell on all the business crashing here, there, and everywhere. But as I've said, and as I've discovered, negative news is what gets attention. It's what gets the eyeballs, what gets people reading the articles, and people watching the YouTubes. If I were to publish a video going, 33,000 new businesses in the construction sector last financial year, times are going great, it'd get no views. Some people would watch it, but the thing is, the algorithm wouldn't push it out. That's the real concerning issue we have here. So let's check out this article here. Property greed, okay. Well, it is the ABC, guys, so we need to bear that in mind. So, builders are collapsing in loss-making boom, and greed is to blame. Really? Greed is to blame? I mean, everyone is going to try and make money. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't predict the future. How many of these people that we've looked at, how many of these people are small builders that have no ability to economically forecast or predict the future, that end up getting their own bloody money out of their own house to prop up their business to try and finish the projects, and it all goes to shit? Okay, not all of them. There are some dodgy bastards that burn the company and then head off to Thailand and are posting Google reviews of restaurants there as people complain on news.com that they can't get access to their house. Sure, there's some of those. But the other side is you got normal people as well have just, the formula they've been repeating for the last 20 years or 10 years has suddenly stopped working because we had insane inflation driven by supply side, because we had, lockdown mania. This is So I wouldn't say greed. And what about the fact that government overheated the sector? Is there going to be any mention of that? It's something that needs to be highlighted. Because if you juice up a sector, if we don't repeat it and don't get it out there in the dialogue, it's just going to happen again and again and again and again and again, isn't it? They're going to stimulate the economy. If there's tough times, it'll overheat the residential sector. People bitch and moan. You'll get in the same mess. Experts say construction companies across the country will continue to go broke as material costs and interest rates keep rising. Okay, notice this expert, and I know we've got a real person here, Nassim Kadem is writing it, but notice how it's experts, and she'll refer to the experts later, but that's exactly what the chat GPT was doing when we got it to write a Doom article, didn't it? Refer to experts. So, the future of dozens of projects in Queensland, including 2 sites on the Gold Coast, New South Wales, and the Australian Capital Territory, is uncertain after the collapse of PBS building this week. Master Builders Gold Coast, so these are the experts here. So Master Builders, that's a lobbying group, among other things, for the building industry. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want, okay? We just need to know who the players are here in this article. Regional Manager Adam Profke said it was a nasty situation for everyone involved and the industry's crisis would continue for months. Yeah, we're not... I mean, it's funny. It depends on who you talk to, doesn't it? Some people are flat out, like, going crazy. It's an exceptionally tough time. It's unprecedented. Well, yes, I mean, how many people have lived through this type of inflation in Australia? I don't know. I don't remember it. I'm too young, you know? And I'm a geriatric boomer. No, millennial. I'm virtually a boomer. Those guys that are still around today say it's tougher than back in the GFC. He said rising prices, labour shortages and interest rate increases had led to cost blowouts, which meant builders on fixed price contracts were finding themselves unable to sustain the financial losses. The collapse of Canberra-based PBS building is the latest in a string of high-profile insolvencies that began last year and included companies such as ProBuild Condev and Oracle Building Corporation. He said a lot of pain was being felt on the Gold Coast, but isn't that just the stereotype of development and construction on the Goldie? Always a little fly-by-night kind of thing. I grew up on the Gold Coast and went to high school there, so I can bag it. We've had a really unprecedented building boom. We're talking 50 to 60% year-on-year growth, he said. A lot of builders are locked into fixed-price contracts for the work, and just to get through those projects, builders are sustaining losses because they're not able to pass those costs on to clients. That's the problem. He said he expected more companies to go bust throughout April or until early May as they began to report to the taxation office. Yes, he's right there. That's, the number one organization in this country that's sending businesses to the wall is now the ATO. It used to be a private debt collection company, but the ATO, I think, is in that proud position, which is sad. That's when people's tax debts are realized and they have to pay those bills back, he said. We're expecting to see some more insolvencies. At the moment, it's a matter of pushing through. We'd like to think that by the middle of this year, things will normalize, but unfortunately for us, there are lots of factors that are outside our control that impact on the survivability of our businesses. Builders who do go into administration are obviously angry and upset. This is their livelihood and their families that we're talking about, their employees and their staff. Those people don't have jobs to go to. Yeah, it's bloody sad. And I think a lot of people won't appreciate what it's like to build a business if you've never done it. If you've never had people working for you, you wouldn't appreciate how tough it is. Building isn't just all, sports cars and luxury overseas trips. AMP chief economist Shane Oliver said builders were feeling the same pressures hitting households and were more likely to be unable to survive the cost pressures. The same issues that have affected households have affected businesses because the cost of building materials have gone up. I think the odds are we probably will see some more construction companies unfortunately go bust because the cost pressures are still there, although they're not as intense as they were. So squeeze from both ends. Dr. Oliver said builders were starting to feel the bite of interest rate increases because of the industry's reliance on debt. As material costs go up, that starts to put the squeeze on them, particularly at a time when demand for new property has declined a little because of higher interest rates, Dr. Oliver said. So they get squeezed from both ends. They get squeezed because of higher interest costs on their debt and because there's less demand for the buildings that they're putting up. He said that it put Australia in a tight spot because the country was facing a housing shortage. I mean, here's the real concern is, in the medium to long term, the knowledge that we're going to lose from the construction industry. You've got all these builders that have got decades of experience, particularly in the residential sector, that are just, they're going under and they're going stuff it. Or they're shutting down businesses because they're just not profitable. Some of them are closing because they can't make any money. And why would you do it? It's not like it's a game that's not stressful. Okay? When you work in stressful businesses or stressful situations, you could easily shift to a job that like freaks out a normie and you're just not even giving a shit. It'd be relaxing. Could some boring, easy, simple job somewhere. I mean, how many builders would become like an awesome trade rep? You go sell a product that you drive around to people, you get a company car, you get to talk to all the pretty girls in marketing, you go to events, drinks, all of that stuff, rather than managing the site, getting the tradies on there, all the shit to deal with, all the problems and issues. Now that's an idea. That'd be a fun job. I say that because we, always have trade reps used to come to the office. And hey, something to consider if you're a gregarious people person in the building game and had the shits with it. It's all a bit of a shame, really, because Australia has a fundamental shortage of housing, he said. Yeah, that's it. And nothing, then it's going to continue to be a problem. Look at my video about why you'll never afford a house. It's kind of sad, but we really need to keep building up. We really need these construction companies to stay afloat to keep supplying property in the Australian property market. Otherwise, we'll come out of all of this with immigrants returning to Australia and foreign students returning with an ongoing shortage of property and ongoing very poor housing affordability. I mean, what he's saying here is going to happen. There's nothing about. People are returning to Australia. We've seen, I'll bring up the slide here. We've seen the numbers kick back, guys. That's not a surprise here. You can see, nope, there we go. You can see that they're opening the floodgates here and numbers have spiked right back up. You've got people coming from China, India, Nepal, and the Philippines to Australia. People want to come back to Australia. That is happening. And, well, where do most Australians live? In these cities, guys. So the demand, I would argue, is there. It's not going anywhere. And the point should be what we're going to see is a decrease in capacity to meet the demand that's going to return no matter what, not if the demand returns. It's returning. We've seen it. It's happening. And you can't stop it. It's not going to stop because it's a huge part of our economy here. And Australia we've got a tiny population. We need to grow the country. But we need to make sure we don't decrease the quality of life of all of us here in Australia. And that means ensuring that the infrastructure meets the demand. So the government needs to kind of allow the private sector to help meet those demands. So calls for a soft landing. Let's have a look. The spate of 10 consecutive interest rate increases has resulted in the country recording its weakest month for loans to build new homes in almost 15 years. According to the HIA chief economist, Tim Reardon. So here we've had the master builders here. So they're more larger scale builders, I'd say. You've got the HIA is more detached residential houses. You've got an economist here. We have an economist from Dr. Oliver. Where's he from again? AMP? No, wait a minute. Hang on, I should know that. I read his stuff all the time. AMP, yeah, there we go, AMP. So you've got two economists and the Master Builders Association here. So Nassim is doing a good job at getting a variety of perspectives. So, but you've got to remember, they've got an agenda too, the HIA. He said the first interest rate increase in May 22 marked a decline in new work. The first increase in the cash rate in May certainly marked a watershed moment, and since then, the volume of new work entering the pipeline is slowing very quickly, Mr. Reardon said. Well, it's probably to do with the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty right now. People are unsure with what's going on. So they're waiting and holding. It's also why supply of properties hitting the market is down too. People are waiting. Hopefully, I mean, this is a good thing. We want the cooling down in the housing building sector so people can get projects finished. Then hopefully you'll have less people going under. Despite this, he said it was estimated that builders across the country have about 2 years' worth of construction in the pipeline. This isn't what we saw in 2020. This isn't a falling off a cliff moment, because there was an enormous amount of work underway when the Reserve Bank started raising rates, he said. There's still 2 years' worth of homes set to reach completion this year, which means activity on the ground is still strong. He said that meant there was a long landing strip for the industry as demand for new builds slows, but he was concerned that the RBA continued to raise interest rates this year. The full impact of the first rate rise in mid-22 won't turn up into the wider economy until 2024, he said. Watchdog suspension notices. Okay, so here we have, I mean, this is good. We all are aware of the cash rate. I'll bring it up here. It's gone up to 3.6%. We're following it closely here on the channel. The most exciting thing is going to be when people go off their 1.99 rate to some of these more realistic rates, or even some people got even lower than that. Now, for most people, if you've had a mortgage for a while, you're going back to something more what you're used to paying. It's going to be the people that bought recently during the mania period, when prices just went to the moon, and maybe they went a little bit too close to the sun. And are their wings going to melt? We'll have to see, guys. Hopefully not. So let's have a look here. To avoid the hit to subcontractors, suppliers, and consumers when building companies collapse, the Queensland Construction Watchdog has embarked on a campaign to ensure businesses meet financial requirements. Last month, the QBCC, Queensland Building and Construction Commission, announced it had imposed license conditions on more than 500 licensees across the state under its mandatory financial reporting regime. The businesses that failed to report made up less than 5% of the registered licensees in the state, but they were given a March 6th deadline to lodge their reports. So they're asking for paperwork. I mean, is this actually going to provide any protection? If you're in the shits, is it going to make any difference? Will they doctor it? Probably not. Hopefully not. But hey, if you're in the toilet, what are people going to do? The regulator said that any outstanding licensees were sent proposed suspension notices with given 21 days to avoid potential supervision or cancellation. If they failed to report properly, they could have their building licenses cancelled. Improved financial reporting increases the QBCC's ability to monitor licensees potentially at risk of insolvency to help us protect others in the payment chain, the QBCC said in a statement. I guess, I mean, that's all they can really do, isn't it? And with the amount of subbies and homeowners that have got done over, I completely understand why there's calls for this, why there's calls for project bank accounts. Because there's nothing worse than finishing a project and getting just completely nothing. Completely nothing. Still having all the costs, still having spent all your time and energy and not being rewarded for it. You know what, I should put a poll up on my community tab just to get an appreciation to see how many of the viewers of the channel, with many in the construction game, have been stiffed on a project, not gotten paid by a client or a developer or a builder or subby or something like that. That would be an interesting little one. The QBCC also helps building industry creditors who are owed money and said it helped creditors secure payment of $4.73 million last year through its complaint process and $15.8 million through the adjudication of payment claims. Okay, there you go. I've never used that. I went through QCAT and didn't get a thing. Oh well. Anyway, guys, let's have a talk about this a bit. So an interesting article we're looking at, well, from the HIA, from AMP, and from the master builders, all with different perspectives on the building industry and how we're going to see more builders going bust. We've been covering what I've been calling the construction apocalypse now for some time, where we're getting a lot of resi builders going under that probably just don't have enough capacity to run it out. They don't have enough money in the bank to absorb the loss on projects. And, well, what we're going to see, an increase or decrease in providers, in builders. We're not seeing that, though, manifest in the entire construction sector. So I need to see if we can dig into that a little bit deeper to see if we're losing just, well, knowledge in one particular part of the game. So I've got phone calls there while I'm recording it. That's the thing. So we're not seeing it there. It's not manifesting there, guys. We've got, well, a lot of things supporting demand for the housing industry. You've got immigration returning. You've got population centers where people want to move. And we've got a decrease in supply and ability to meet the growing housing needs. So it's going to be a difficult time moving ahead, I would say, if you want to get stuff built. I mean, it just went crazy. And let's hope we don't get a recession, because then, what are the chances of Labor turning the tap on to the construction sector again, one way or another? Both parties do it because it's a very effective way to get money flowing through the economy. It's one of the most effective ways to maximize the payback for their investment. You may be critical of Home Builder and were bitching and moaning that it didn't all go into social housing, but that was a brilliant idea. The point was not to provide housing for people in need. The point was to stimulate the economy. So you give someone a 15 grand backhander, they feel like they're getting an awesome deal. They have to spend a minimum of $150,000. So wait a minute, they're pretty much getting the GST back they're going to pay anyway. So, and of course, you overheat the market, prices go up, they're not getting a discount, they're not getting free money. And now, combined with all of these supply side issues, locked in fixed price contracts, we're seeing the consequences of that. So there you go. Will we see more builders collapse? Most certainly. Will it be a huge hit to the construction industry? Doesn't look like it, at least in the number of businesses. But will there be a brain drain that we may have trouble plugging? I'd bet a carton on that. Let me know your thoughts on this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, Heise BIM and Heise Does. And if you're a fan and want to support us, you can on YouTube or Patreon. Use our referral links, buy our pocket squares, or call us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. Bye for now.